I've long wondered why so many smart people keep making poor financial decisions. Then I discovered something bizarre. According to Fidelity, their most successful investors were either dead or had forgotten they had accounts. Think about that for a second. The best investors weren't Wall Street geniuses or PhD economists. They were literally people who couldn't touch their money. This counterintuitive finding from The Psychology of Money hits at a profound truth. Our worst enemy in building wealth isn't lack of knowledge, but our own very human impulse to act. Morgan Housel's book is filled with such startling insights that challenge everything we think we know about money. Through 19 distinct stories, he reveals how our behavior, emotions, and psychological quirks shape our financial destiny far more than our intelligence or expertise. A genius who can't control their emotions can be a financial disaster. And the opposite is true too. People without formal financial education can build wealth by practicing a handful of behavioral skills. Let's dive into the 3 key lessons from the book. 1. Freedom. Why controlling your time is worth more than a 7-figure income. Imagine 2 people. Sarah, who makes $300,000 a year but is tethered to her phone 24/7 for client emergencies, and Tom, who earns $80,000 but can shut his laptop at 5 p.m. and take spontaneous Wednesday afternoon hikes. Who's wealthier? According to Morgan Housel, it's Tom, by a mile. The highest form of wealth isn't about the number in your bank account, but rather the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. This isn't just feel-good philosophy, it's backed by a cruel irony of modern work life. As our salaries have grown, our grip on our time has quietly slipped away. In the 1950s, when a factory worker punched out at 5 p.m., their time was truly their own. No emails, no Slack notifications, no clients sliding into their DMS at midnight. The physical constraints of their work paradoxically gave them more freedom. But today, our jobs have colonized our minds. A marketing executive can't just turn off the campaign ideas swirling in their head during dinner. A software developer's bug fixes follow them into their dreams. A consultant's client presentations haunt their weekend walks. We've traded physical constraints for mental chains, and these chains don't respect office hours. This explains one of the most puzzling paradoxes of modern life. Despite being dramatically wealthier than our grandparents, surveys show we're not significantly happier. We've gained wealth but lost sovereignty over our time. And as Housel argues, time sovereignty is the ultimate currency of happiness. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want. Think about your happiest moments. Were they when you got a raise, or when you had the freedom to spend an uninterrupted afternoon with your kids? When you bought a new car, or when you took an impromptu road trip with no particular destination? The math is clear. Freedom trumps funds every time. This realization forces us to rethink what making it really means. Perhaps true wealth isn't about maximizing your income, but optimizing for autonomy. It's about building a life where you control your time, not just your money. Because at the end of the day, the highest dividend money can pay isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in moments of pure, unscripted freedom. 2. Enough versus the endless treadmill. Mark Cuban once said that after making his first million, he felt compelled to make 10. After 10 million, he needed 100. After selling his company for billions, he kept pushing for more. Despite having more money than he could spend in several lifetimes, the goalpost kept moving. This isn't just the story of one tech billionaire. It's a cautionary tale about the most dangerous question in finance. How much is enough? The answer should be simple. Once you can afford a comfortable home, healthy food, quality healthcare, and some leisure, shouldn't that be enough? Yet we live in a world where billionaires race to space while still chasing more zeros in their bank accounts. The problem isn't just greed, it's something more insidious that Housel calls the never-ending treadmill of relative social comparison. Here's how the treadmill works. You get a promotion and move to a better neighborhood. Suddenly, your perfectly good Honda looks shabby next to your neighbor's Tesla. Your kitchen, which you loved last year, now feels dated compared to the marble countertops next door. Your kid's public school, which was fine before, now seems inadequate when you learn everyone else sends their children to private academies. The goalposts haven't just moved, they're sprinting away from you. This treadmill explains why lottery winners often end up miserable. They leap to a new social circle where their millions feel like pocket change. A $5 million house feels modest when your new peers own $20 million mansions. A yacht feels inadequate when it's the smallest one in the marina. As Housel brilliantly puts it, happiness isn't about absolute numbers. It's the gap between results and expectations. And in a world of Instagram and Forbes lists, our expectations are being stretched like rubber bands ready to snap. The most powerful antidote to this madness is developing your own unshakable definition of enough. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He could buy a private island, but his modest home in Omaha is enough. This isn't about settling for less. It's about being mindfully content with what truly matters to you, regardless of what society's scoreboard says. The math of enough is brutally simple. If you can't find contentment with $1 million, you won't find it with $10 million. If $10 million doesn't satisfy you, $100 million won't either. The only way to win this game is to stop playing it altogether. Define your enough based on your values, not your zip code. Because chasing someone else's definition of enough is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You'll pour your whole life into it and still end up empty. How much is enough? In our current society, there seems to be no limit to what enough means. Many people, including the wealthiest and most powerful, will never have enough. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. The truth is, there's practically no ceiling to social comparison. This means this game can never be won. Happiness is simply results minus expectations. Life isn't fun without a sense of enough. Don't fall into the trap of buying things you don't need, with money you don't have, to impress people you don't know. Define your own sense of enough, even if it's less than those around you. 3. Compound interest. Understand it, act on it, and your financial independence is guaranteed. In 2021, Fidelity Investments made a disturbing discovery while reviewing their best-performing accounts. The top investors weren't market wizards or financial experts. They weren't even alive. They were dead. Or, if not dead, they had completely forgotten they had accounts. While living active investors were frantically buying and selling, trying to outsmart the market, these inactive accounts were quietly accomplishing what Einstein allegedly called the eighth wonder of the world: compound interest. This macabre insight reveals an uncomfortable truth about wealth building. Our brains are our own worst enemy. We're wired for linear thinking, like understanding that walking 10 steps gets you 10 steps further. But compound interest is exponential, and our minds simply aren't equipped to grasp it intuitively. Consider this. If you could fold a piece of paper 42 times, hypothetically, the thickness would reach the moon. That's exponential growth. That's compound interest. Warren Buffett's wealth tells this story better than any mathematical formula. By age 65, he was worth a respectable $3 billion. Not bad for a lifetime of investing, right? But here's where it gets wild. In the years that followed, his wealth exploded to $144 billion. That means 98% of his wealth came after retirement age. This isn't because he suddenly became a smarter investor. It's because compound interest finally had enough time to work its magic. Think of compound interest like a snowball rolling down a hill. In the beginning, it's painfully slow. The first few turns might add just a few flakes. Most people get discouraged during this phase thinking, this isn't working. They jump from strategy to strategy, resetting their snowball every time. But if you can resist the urge to interfere, something magical happens. Each turn of the snowball picks up more snow than the last. By the bottom of the hill, your snowball is an unstoppable force. Here's a mind-bending way to understand the difference between how we think and how compound interest works. Linear thinking. Saving $1,000 every year for 30 years equals $30,000. Compound reality. $1,000 invested every year with 10% annual returns for 30 years equals $164,494. This shows the true power of compound interest. Simply adding money linearly gives you $30,000, but letting that same money compound over time yields more than 5 times as much. This is why patient investors build fortunes while active traders who constantly reset their compound growth often struggle to match the market's returns. The math isn't intuitive to our brains, but it's undeniable. Time and compound interest are the investor's greatest allies. This is why Housel argues that the most important financial skill isn't understanding the market. It's having the patience to let compound interest work. The best investment strategy might be to act like those dead Fidelity clients. Set up a sensible investment plan, then do the hardest thing of all, nothing. Because in the game of compound interest, the winners are often those who plant their financial trees and live long enough to sit in the shade. And when trading in the market, you're dealing with people with very different logic. A teenager trading for fun has a different risk tolerance than a widow living off her stocks. A hedge fund manager closing quarterly books has a very different reason to trade than someone working toward financial independence. Yet they all influence the stock price. They're all rational people, and they all have different opinions about the market. The key message here: you determine what a particular stock is worth to you in the long run. Don't listen to your neighbor's latest stock tip and ignore the talking heads on the TV, but stick to your plan and let compound interest do wonders for you. I really recommend this book on your journey to grow your financial independence. As a bonus, Morgan Housel offers a confession about his own wealth allocation, personal financial strategy, and his perspective on what might await the world in coming decades. To continue learning, please visit fivefaculty.com and subscribe to our newsletter, YouTube channel, and podcast on your favorite podcast player.